Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting Creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Get business done with the new American Express Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card. With unlimited 2% cash back on all eligible purchases. Unlimited 5% cash back on flights and prepaid hotels booked through American Express Travel Online. And a flexible spending capacity that can grow with your business. You'll have the confidence to keep building. Apply today and earn a welcome offer of $1,500 cash back after you spend $50,000 in qualifying purchases on your new card within the first 6 months of card membership. Terms apply. Learn more at go.amex/graphite.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jay Scott, and it is The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. I always appreciate, as you know. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to write us a review when you are done listening. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and I'm sure you'll have lots to say, and we do appreciate all the feedback. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts. You can check out a whole bunch of music-related discussions with different styles and different topics, including the official Metallica report. And rumor has it my next guest will be appearing soon on that platform. So that's something to be excited about. But check them out on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Pantheon Pods. And you can do the same with The Hook Rocks. Just search up The Hook Rocks, including our new website, thehookrocks.com. But you can find us on all social media platforms. We've had some great guests since my new guest appeared back in March. We did the 10 Commandments of Rock and Roll Fans, and it's been a great month of April. We had Dee Snider talking the 40th anniversary of Stay Hungry. God, man, we had Lita Ford on. We had Michael Starr from Steel Panther, and we also celebrated our 600th episode with Paul Jackson of Blackberry Smoke, talking the recent passing and reflecting on Britt Turner, which was a great conversation. I'm glad he was given a chance to really express the emotion of himself and what the band's been going through since Britt left us about a month ago. So check all those episodes out, and hope you do enjoy. And I hope you enjoy this episode. We've got one of my favorite people, Mr. Don Jamieson, who's got a new album out that is absolutely hysterical, and we're going to get into it. What's going on, Don? How are you?
Hey, well, I got to catch up on all those episodes because they all sound phenomenal. And I like and know all those people. So, you're on a roll, my friend. And, it's great that we're going to be neighbors soon.
Yes.
Rockstrap coming soon to Pantheon. So we're one big, happy musical and comedy world. So, real exciting, stuff happening right now. And, with the album finally coming out, release day was, on the 19th, and, we debuted at number 1. So, thanks to guys like you and every single person out there who was interested in talking to me for, even a minute, thank you for the support, or even just to mention, it all led to a great debut, and more good stuff to come.
Well, now that we're neighbors, if I am baking, I may have to come over, borrow some sugar or some baking soda. So,
well, you'll never have to worry about me coming over and complaining the music. It's too loud.
That used to be a thing, though. I mean, you're kind of around the same age as I am, but like our parents, my mother especially, would always make me do the walk of shame to a neighbor's house. Can you go ask them if I could borrow like a cup of sugar or something like that? I'm like, really? I'm like, I got to go do this. So I got to go schlep all over to my neighbor's house, ring the doorbell. Yeah, my mom wants to borrow some sugar, and it's just like, that was a thing. I don't think that happens as much anymore with kids these days.
Yeah, no, I used to have to go over and borrow a cup of vodka. So that was way more embarrassing.
But, one of the things about this album, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It's absolutely hysterical. Is really about how things have. You touch on a lot of things. How things are so different these days than they were. I mean, you and I are around the same age. We're Generation X, right? And whether it's people being overly offended by the simplest things or things that shouldn't be offensive, to people just, I don't know, it's just a different world these days, you know? Like, I see it with my son. He's kind of an old soul. He's 19, but I see it with his friends and all these things. But like, it seems like people are trying to find ways to be offended. It almost seems like sometimes.
Yeah, man, I tell you, it's not so much. I mean, really, you know, if you follow any comedian, really, or any kind of social commentator, you know, then the next thing you do, yes, is about how the world's different. But we're on hyperspeed to a place that's almost unrecognizable sometimes. So that's really where I'm trying to dig in a lot, is like, wait, hold on a second. Let's put on the brakes and figure out where we are. And I'm trying to make it humorous. Because, you know, if I don't, you know, I'll, you know, go into a rage, and I certainly don't want to be the old guy yelling, "Get off my lawn." I want it to be funny. I want to make a point with it at the same time, but, I do want it to be funny to everybody, including all the people that I make fun of which I'm included.
There was this thing a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. I came across it on YouTube, and I don't know how I did, but it was these two people behind what looked like a news desk. It was like a whole set, and their specific goal was to watch each of the Dave Chappelle Netflix episodes and talk about what was offensive. And I remember going, like, so you purposely set out to find something to be offensive. In my opinion, coming from my generation, something that's offensive comes out of nowhere, right? Like, you don't plan on being offensive. Like, no one goes out and I plan on being offended today by something. Yeah. And it's because when you are offended, it's like, so like, oh my God, I can't believe someone actually did that or said that or something like that. But to go and sit there and go, okay, we're going to watch this for an hour, and I'm going to be offended by these many things, and then we're going to do a show about it. I'm like, this is the antithesis of what is wrong with everything in our society right now.
Yeah. Well, that too is like, you know, it's like these reaction videos that are so popular. I get it. But you're right. It's like now I'm searching for something to be offended by, because if they don't, then they have no show. Right. So, you know, you don't know how much of that is real or how much that is just for content. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think I make the point on the album is like, no matter what you say, someone will find it offensive in some way, shape, or form. You know, and I give the example of making a joke about a leprechaun, and how could that offend anybody? And, we won't do the joke here, but, that's as innocuous a reference as you can make. And yet someone still got angry at me about that after the show. It was somehow offensive to Irish people. But, so I don't try to pussyfoot around, man. I've been doing this too long. We have to be able to laugh at ourselves. And quite frankly, Jay, most of the people who are triggered, who are truly, go into situations looking to be offended, they really don't come out anymore. So, if you feel like you're going to be triggered at a comedy show, you should stay home and bury your nose in your phone and have an argument about politics with someone who lives in Guam who has like 4 followers. You probably won't like my act anyway.
Well, isn't that the whole thing, though? Is like, if you overuse being offended, it loses its value. It loses its like, oh my God, what was so offensive? Because you hear it so much, and you hear it from the same people a lot of times. It's more now when someone says it, you just roll your eyes. It's not even taken serious anymore. And because it's so watered down, because not everything in life, it's impossible for everything in life to be offensive. It's just absolutely impossible, but people find a way to do it. And I think there is like that divided line of generations, because I mentioned Generation X, and I was just having this conversation with my 2 nephews over the weekend. And I said, I don't know if you guys would survive in this in our generation, because if you had to say, if you wanted to say something to someone, you had to do it to their face, right? And then more than likely there was going to be a fist fight at the park, right? But you had to take ownership for what you said and how you said it to people right then and there. It wasn't like block, I don't want to deal with that person anymore, because that's the way people handle conflict in the new generation. They want to just get rid of and absolve themselves from seeing or acknowledging that person.
Yeah, well, the block is the new punch to the face, and it has no effect because you don't feel the pain. And as you said, in our day, we had to own up to what we said, and they'll come catch up with you after school or on your block or whatever. But again, I want this album to be funny to Gen Z and Gen X and to the boomers and everybody in between. Everybody I make fun of, I want to laugh this stuff. And I've been doing this material for a few years, and all those people have been in the audience and they have all laughed at it. So, I feel, it feels good to put it out knowing, hey, this stuff's battle tested. You might not like my style, but, I know this stuff works. I make the point about, racism. There's a lot of racism in this world, but there's a lot of fake racism, and I break all that down. So you're right. It's like not everything can be offensive. Not everything can be racist. Otherwise, the words have no meaning. And it's tough to be absurd these days. I mean, just watch the news for 5 minutes and you could go, I can't top this.
No, it's like almost like the news and the stuff you read is like a comedy bit too as well.
Yeah.
How many times have you read something
how absurd this?
Yeah. I mean, how many times have you read something like, hey, is this serious? Did that really happen? And you've got to go Google it to make sure there's other sources that confirm this craziness is actually existing.
No, it's true. But you have to figure out a way, and so for each of the bits on the album, I really tried to find a specific point of view, on them. And then, for me, the really fun thing about the album, I mean, I love the whole thing, but I love how at the end, music is the healer. And we all unite and heal at the end. Now, Joe Biden's not the uniter. Don Jamieson is the uniter. When you listen to my album, I unite everybody at the end, and we all go home happy and full of glee.
I think that's so important, and I think we talked about that the last time you were on. That if everybody went to a rock concert, the world would be a better place, because there's so many different cultures, creeds, sexuality, races, and everything at a rock concert. And it's probably the most accepting community that I've ever seen. When you go, because no one cares. You're there to like the music. Everybody loves the same stuff that you're there to see. Everybody's having a great time. And I think we get lost in all this craziness and think we're more divided than we really are. We're actually not. We actually have a lot more in common, whether it's sports teams, whether it's music, whatever it is. And I just think that if more people went to rock shows, they would understand that community is quite prevalent there.
Yeah, well, like the great Glenn Hughes says every night on stage, music is the healer. And that always has stuck with me because it's true. And I even point that out in other types of music. Obviously, we like a certain genre of music. But it really is, it's a gathering of different types of people, and nobody's thinking about that when they're there. We're all there for one reason. So I love that that's how the album sort of sums up in the end. That just, makes me happy, obviously, because music being such a huge part of my life. And, we tackle some heavy stuff in there, but,
no, it's good. It's all good.
And I'm happy to be putting it on. It's going to be out on vinyl. The pre-sale is ready now. So, hopefully the old school people like you and I will pick up the vinyl version as well.
Yeah. All those links will be in the show notes. So when you're listening, you're done listening, just click on those links. It'll lead you to the pre-orders, all that stuff, and go check that out. There is humor in hypocrisy, although it can be very frustrating and very aggravating sometimes. There is, if you look at it the right way, it could be absolutely hilarious. Like one of the big things that I love, I think is absolutely hysterical, is when you think of the right, they always complain about, wokeism and, all this stuff. And then Bud Light uses a transgender person for their new spokesperson for the beer. And then Kid Rock takes a machine gun and starts shooting these bottles of Bud Light, completely freaking out. And then you've got people buying cases and cases of Bud Light and then taking a bulldozer and running it over, saying they're not going to buy Bud Light when they just bought all these cases of beer to begin with, to do the whole thing. To me, that's hilarious. That's hysterical. I mean, there's things you could be aggravated and upset about, but the whole bit with Kid Rock taking a AK-47 or whatever he's doing and shooting the Bud Light bottles, I find that amusing. I find that hilarious.
Oh yeah, well, Jay, then a couple months later, I go down to Nashville to do a show, and I go to Kid Rock's honky tonk, and there's Bud Light on tap right in his own bar. So it's true, and I although we do touch on politics on the album, I try to keep it right in the middle. And any of the political and social stuff, I try to walk down the middle because, again, people pay me to be funny. And hopefully, for the most part, I do that. I want everybody to laugh. Whoever you voted for, I want you to laugh. We have to be able to laugh at ourselves. Otherwise, luckily, I'm not popular enough to be canceled. No one's going to do reaction videos to my album, but, yeah, it's just crazy, but we got to point the stuff out because I watch the news and 5 minutes later, I'm ready to go see a therapist, but luckily I have a comedy stage where I can jump up and yell at people and get my rage out.
Maybe that's it. Maybe people don't have the outlets they used to have, to take their mind off things. And
well, they do it on the phone. That's where it's on the phone or on your computer, like I said. And that's why, when I did my album, I chose McSorsley's Old Ale House in New York City because, Jay, that's the gathering place. Like in New York, it's, opened in 1854. That's where, presidents came and people from all over the world come and they seat everybody at these big wooden tables and you solve the world's problems by talking to one another. And of course, drinking McSorsley's ale. And that's what you do. And then, you have, next thing you know, you have friends from all over the world, which is so great. And that's what I love about it. That's why I said this is the perfect setting for it, because this is the only way we're going to get through this stuff is if we actually talk. For the people who just sit home and go like this, or, nobody is doing this at McSorley's. Everybody is going, all right, another round, come on, and how about this? And we have a great time, and people laugh and sing, and it's just it's the real social media.
Yeah, no, I mean that is true. I mean, conversation. I've told people that I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point, public schools will have conversation 101 because people will forget how to talk to each other. It's coming. It's got to come.
Yeah. I mean, I took public speaking in college and obviously that's good for getting up in front of a group of people, but you're right. It might get so absurd that people have to like almost like speed dating. You're going to have to sit across the table from somebody and learn to have a conversation with them. God forbid. But, yeah, man, it's a crazy world out there and just trying to make sense of it all.
And my next question, I think, is probably the most important question I'm going to ask you is, if you were to choose a female entertainer, I don't know, any female out there, who would you want to make a vagina candle?
That's right, because with what Jay's referencing is my continued attack on Gwyneth Paltrow and her "This Smells Like My Vagina" candle. This has now spawned 2 albums because I wasn't done with her yet, apparently, as I found out. But boy, who's the woman from the Rolling Stones video for "Angry"? Is it Sydney Sweeney?
I think so. Yeah,
Sydney Sweeney. You market a vagina candle, and you will only have to send one email out to one person, and I will take your entire inventory.
Well, my question is,
Robbie.
Well, my question about the vagina candle is, does it stop there, or do we go with plugins? Do we go with aerosol spray? Where does it stop?
Jay, I have a feeling now there's going to be a part 3 of this on my next album, because you raise a great point, and if only just to beat up Gwyneth Paltrow a little bit more, we might have to extend the life of this. But more absurdity in a world of absurdity.
I almost want to get the candle just to see if it does smell like a vagina.
Well, it's supposed to smell like hers. So, I mean, unless you or I, make the A-list in Hollywood, and, for people taking a look at the two of us right now, pretty good chance that that's never going to happen. That's the only people who've gotten that close to her Kuzmanjish ever. But if I ever meet one of her many conquests, I am going to ask if they've ever done it, if they've ever AB'd them, the candle and the vagina.
Well, I guess the next question is can a lawsuit be brought forth? And to prove her statement, we would have to smell her vagina.
That's right. Like there have to be maybe, a scratch and sniff of her actual vagina comes in with the candle. And then, again, you're right. So it's like a certificate authenticity, with a scratch and sniff at the bottom, signed by Gwyneth herself. And we'll see. I mean, again, I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe I don't know. But there could be there could be a lawsuit in the works here.
I think we're onto something. I mean, I
don't know what it is, but we're onto something.
I was taken. I mean, I went to a whole nother level of interest when I saw on Amazon there was a candle that smelled like bacon, and I was like, "Oh, that's got to smell phenomenal." But you have a reference with that, right? So you get the box from Amazon, you open it up, you light it, you sit there for 10 minutes before the aroma starts to hit everything, and you can say, "Well, yeah, that does smell like bacon," or "It doesn't smell like bacon." With Gwyneth's claims, we really have no frame of reference. We're taking her word for it. So we really don't know. I mean, this is stuff that keeps me up at night, Don. It really does.
Well, I wouldn't let it keep you up at night, but these are, this is like maybe you and I have a spin-off podcast, Deep Thoughts with Jay and Don, where we could really dive into this kind of metaphysical thought.
In fact, we live in the OnlyFans generation, basically, right? Everybody's got, not everybody. I don't have an OnlyFans page, although I've been thinking about making one, but I don't know if anyone's going to be interested. But, I know a lot of girls do OnlyFans now. I mean, maybe just go with the vagina candles at this point, if that's going to become a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. The OnlyFans girls, they're putting the old school strippers out of business. That's why, which is shameful. There used to be an art. You used to have to go, you used to have to like put a baseball cap on and some dark glasses and, park around the back and then sneak in and, try to explain to your wife why you're always getting change in singles and, and then, you get into the club and you sort of have to, work it a little bit. But now it's just, give me $9.99 and you do it again right on your phone. That's where our whole lives are. And all the old porn stars are going to go out of business too. It's very shameful.
Like cell phones killed the payphone, right? I mean, we're basically looking at, an industry, one industry killing another industry. I mean, and also there has to be some responsibility on men. I mean, you're the one that's paying for these OnlyFans pages. You need to start demanding them go to work as a stripper so you can go and have them grind on you in person. I mean, that's how it was done back in the day. I don't understand, why that stopped. It's sad.
No, you lose all that joy of wearing a really loose pair of pants with no underwear. So you get a good grinding. And, the big decision, do I go into the VIP room, and all those things that make us the men we are today.
She really likes me. She said,
I could tell. Yeah, I'm different than the other guys that come in here. Sure.
It's like, driving by like an adult bookstore and you see a guy walk out of it. You're like, doesn't that guy own a computer? Like, why is that building still there? Like, why is this business still exist? I mean, that's something I don't understand. I mean, is there enough people that go to adult bookstores these days that keeps paying the rent and the electricity and all that stuff? Because it's just like, all you need to do is, buy a cheap computer and Google.
Yeah, well, I think the profit margins are getting lower and lower on those places. But yeah, there's still a few of those old school ones still around. And I always enjoy when I drive past one and accidentally get a flat tire and have to go inside and use the phone.
Yeah. And then your shoes are all sticky when you walk out and everything. You talked about one of the things on the album. We touched on it before about being offensive, right? And how comedy has really been under attack over the last, I would probably say decade, probably a little bit more, but really, it's really a light's been shined on comedy over the last 10 years about jokes going too far. And I think what people fail to realize I think the lawsuit was against Hustler back in the 80s, I think, with Larry Flint. And people were trying to determine that it was offensive. But as a court determined, being offended is what you choose to be offended by. Not everybody chooses to be offended by the same things. And what we're seeing now with comedy is almost like a groupthink of when someone says it on social media, this whole big group of people blindly goes and says, yes, it's offensive. But you and I grew up in the era with Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy and George Carlin, where everything was on the table. I mean, there were no punches pulled. And I think that still stands today with a lot of comedians, such as yourself and guys like Chappelle. And I just think people lose the definition of what comedy is. It's supposed to be a funny view of ourselves. And people I don't think, get the joke.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's true. It's, that's why I like to go into enemy territory when I'm working on material for an album, because I want to, put me in the comedy club down in the West Village, right outside of NYU in New York City. Let's see if I can make these 21, 22-year-old kids who are offended by everything laugh, then I know the material works. But, but again, right now there's such a big audience for this kind of stuff because people are pushing back now. And if you think about who the biggest comics in the country are, they're all edgy comics. Bill Burr, with Joe Rogan, of course. Dice is making a huge comeback now. Chappelle. So all the edgy comics are the ones out there killing it now. And I feel bad for the young comedians because even when I started, you could just write about anything, Jay. It was like I could write about, a chair, a horse, my girlfriend. Everything was open. Now I see young comics and they go, I can't talk about this. I can't talk about this. And they have 9 things left that they can talk about. So it's really tough for young comics because they're afraid, and I'm not going to be afraid, but at the same time, I do adjust with the times. It's the same with music. You can have longevity in your career, but you got to adjust with the times, not just creatively, but also in the way you do your business. I'm lucky. I do my CDs with Metal Blade Records, who were one of the first record companies to figure out, there's a new thing coming here, and it's called, streaming and downloading and all this stuff. And when a lot of record companies went down, Metal Blade was already far ahead of the curve with that stuff. So, you adjust or die. 80% of, my sales or pretty much anybody else's sales, and music or comedy is 80% is going to be, online. And that's just the way it is. I'm lucky. I got a part of my audience who loves, the physical product who still has that passion, to look at the packaging, which is why they're always, for me, about my favorite rock bands. And again, the vinyl that is on for pre-order now, I'm going to make 2 different variants because McSorsley's only serves their beer, McSorsley's Light Ale and McSorsley's Dark Ale, and that's going to be the 2 variants, the color schemes on both of the albums. So for the people who love that, that's available. For the people who want to stream it, have at it. I suggest streaming it, buying a CD and a vinyl, but that's just me.
Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Get business done with the new American Express Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card. With unlimited 2% cash back on all eligible purchases. Unlimited 5% cash back on flights and prepaid hotels booked through American Express Travel Online. And a flexible spending capacity that can grow with your business. You'll have the confidence to keep building. Apply today and earn a welcome offer of $1,500 cash back after you spend $50,000 in qualifying purchases on your new card within the first 6 months of card membership. Terms apply. Learn more at go.amex/graphite.
Well, first of all, I'm definitely going to go with the Dark Ale vinyl. I'm a Dark Ale guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can stream and still buy the physical product. I mean, if if you're unsure about something, you want to listen to it. If you like it, you should go buy the physical copy. Like if you
Yes.
love what you hear, if you want to support that artist, you should buy their physical music. Absolutely.
And just a little quick button, Jay, on what you said, because I went off on a little tangent. But for me, and I think for the majority of people, comedy and rock and roll are at their best when they're dangerous. And so, that's something I subscribe by. That's something I live by. And that's how I run my business. So it might not be for you, but it's the way that I go. When I bought my first Kiss album when I was 11, my parents hated it. I knew I was onto something.
Absolutely. When your mom and dad told you they didn't like it, you wanted it more.
Right. This is dangerous. This is subversive. They don't want me listening to this. I'm definitely now listening to this.
We've seen rock and roll be muted more and more. What you say about being dangerous, like we just talked about, applies to the new wave of rock, right? I mean, there's very few rock stars that are like the Axl Rose or the David Lee Roths, who will say whatever, and then you just got to pick up the pieces after they walk away. And it almost seems like someone turned a light switch 10, 15 years ago, and probably longer than that, and said, no more rock and roll, no more rock stars, no more of these big egos, no more whatever. And it almost feels like the same is being attempted with comedy. It almost seems like there's an attempt to mute stand-up comedy. And nothing, well, I should say this, there's an attempt to mute anything that people don't agree with. And I think that's the big scary thing.
Yeah, but I think there's enough outlets, for people who, perform in a certain manner that they can still get the message out there. I mean, my album, I'm so grateful to everybody who helped me because, my album debuted at #1 on the charts. So, there is a method to the madness of doing this. And, as a creative person, I wouldn't have any fun if I listened to, all the gatekeepers out there who are saying what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And, again, as I point out on the album, in many, many ways, you are going to offend somebody somehow, no matter what you say. So, you know what? Say it, but make it funny. That's all. I mean, that's the key too, is like, it's hard to argue when something's successful, to say, no, that's not funny. When something is, when something achieves, a certain level. So, I couldn't water my stuff down if I wanted to. Like I said, I adjust with the times, but, you get what you get. rock music and heavy music, such a big part of my world. You're right. It's hard to be a rock star these days. But that's also because there's no mystique anymore. When you can see what somebody had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on social media, it kind of takes away your thirst for like, I really, how do I get to know this person? You just don't really have it that much anymore. More in country music, which is interesting. There's a lot of outlaws in country music who still kind of have that mystique about them. I see kind of that more and more.
Well, I guess that's the big question that leads me to my next question is there's other genres out there that seem to get away with more of that dangerous persona than rock does now, and now comedy does. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't want to speculate, but it just seems like some people are given a pass and others aren't.
Jay, I think all the answers to these questions are contained on this album, No Sleep Til McSorley's. Dude, I don't know either. This is what I do for a living. And when it's not fun anymore, I'm going to stop doing it. Who knows? I mean, comedy might be, there might be an executive order that's signed by the time this airs saying that comedy is now illegal in the United States. And then I'll have to try to figure out what else I'm mediocre at to do.
Well, the other thing this album does specifically state is how Don is feeling. And if you know the joke, and you'll hear the joke with the record, if you ever ask him how his tendonitis is doing, and he says it's flared up, that means Don's doing okay. He's doing
That's true. Right. Exactly. It's been a good week.
Yes. The best jokes, though, are when you put your head down in the audience. You're in the audience, you hear a joke, you put your head down, and you're at the same time saying, I can't believe he just said that, and you're laughing at the same time. Those are the best jokes, right? Like, those are like the ones that make you feel your mind is uncomfortable, but your heart wants to laugh, right?
Yeah.
And that's like when the sweet spot is being hit. And I have to tell you, there's probably at least a half dozen times where I'm listening to this going, I mean, I can't believe you just said that, but damn, that was fucking hilarious. That's the mark of a good joke, in my opinion. You're slightly offending someone, but you're also making them laugh too as well. That's awesome.
Yeah. And thanks, man. It's all context too, right? Yeah. I mean, you could pull a line out of my album or any other comedian's albums, or even a song, and out of context, it could seem offensive to somebody, but in the context of what you're talking about, it's like you said, it's gonna hit home a little bit more. It's the same in music, right? Rock and roll is the devil's music, and everybody was up in arms, and in hard rock and heavy metal, there's been a lot of lyrics, over the years that some people would consider, now would consider fully misogynistic and sexist and all that. But back in the day, in that context, while the scene was growing and healthy, we didn't care. She's only 17 by Winger. Well, you couldn't write that song today, could you? Christine's 16 by Kiss. Probably not. Unless you're Jeffrey Epstein, that's, probably not going to be a song you're going to listen to a lot.
Well, you also mentioned Fat Bottom Girls in the CD too, the album too as well. That would probably not be made today.
No, now it'd be, more voluptuous posteriors, which it's not, it doesn't roll off the tongue the same way when you sing it.
How would people chant that at Wembley?
Yeah.
That'd be such like because you'd hear that wave of people screwing it up throughout the crowd because they're trying to like sing that lyric, voluptuous posterior, whatever, and you see like this wave of people getting it and people screwing it up. That would be comedy in itself too, as well.
Right. More juicy posteriors make the rock and roll go round. It just doesn't have the same meter to it.
What's your template for a joke? Like, how do you dive into creating a joke?
I get angry at something and I write it down, and and then when the little stack of papers hits a certain point, I go, I should probably go through these so I don't forget my original intent. But in the moment, I don't want to write about it because it's just too infuriating. So yeah, it's sort of like, get angry or annoyed or upset with something and write it down. And then, like I said, try to come up with a point of view. That's the other important thing with again, both music and comedy is your point of view. We all write about the same 15 things. Let's be honest. But it's why is it important for me to say this? What, rather, other than it's funny. It's like what, but why? What's my point of view on this? If everybody comes from this angle on something, I always try to come from that angle, and you don't have to agree or even appreciate it, but I don't want to say something to say it. So when I write a joke, the first thought, like the first punchline that comes to my mind, I throw away immediately because I'm like, well, that's what everyone would come up with. When they saw this setup, that's the first thing everybody would think of. So I don't want that. I'll throw the first three things away and go, no, how do I really approach this that's going to be different from somebody else? We all talk about our failed or successful relationships. We all talk about our upbringing. We all talk about whoever the president is. But how do I make it more unique to me? That's the most important thing. Because again, the palette's always open to me. Whatever pisses me off, I write it down and we try to figure something out.
It's the definition of your voice.
Right. But again, at the end of the day, it's got to be funny. So I don't have any ego of like, this is important for me to put out there in the world. I don't care if the audience doesn't laugh. No, the audience is paying me for them to laugh. So that's my job. So, there is some of that. A joke's just a joke. I write, I could sit and write them all day. But they got to be funny.
Is it difficult for you when you're the way comedians live their life? Is there's always a perspective, right? There's always, an outer body person in your, that comes from your mind that's looking down on what you're doing and observing at the same time that you're living. Is that when do those things? When do you see those things aligning? Is that when the joke is created, or are you kind of like speaking to different parts of your mind? And the reason why I asked that is because I had a conversation with Corey Glover, Living Color, about songwriting, and he talked candidly about talking to other parts of his brain to get a perspective that he wants to write about. Do you do the same thing?
I mean, I think that's sort of what we were just discussing a little bit. Yeah, it's like, what's my perspective on this? How can I paint this picture that'll be different than somebody else's? Corey obviously puts a lot of time into his lyrics, and he's able to paint a picture differently, maybe about the same topic as another lyricist and performer, but it's how he does it. So I think, again, that's important. But at the end of the day, same thing with him and his band is the song's got to be good. Otherwise, there's no sense of singing it if the crowd's not going to enjoy it. So yeah, that's it at the end of the day. We are getting paid to entertain. Please, nobody take any of this stuff too seriously, because we're all up there to entertain you. Nobody's up there, for any other reason. We're not up there to be hateful or to be spiteful. Like that's what we get paid to do, is get on stage and hopefully everyone goes home and has a good time.
When you think of finding the humor, you talk about writing things down that piss you off. How does that slowly evolve into finding it funny? I mean, we talked about the whole thing with Bud Light, right? It comes from this angry place of shooting up bottles of beer, and then me being like, what the hell are these people doing the first time I see it, to now, after months later, finding it absolutely hilarious that actually happened. How does that evolution happen with you? Like, how do you seek the humor in things that piss you off?
I think because like I said, what you did, I give it a little time. I let it kind of just, like float around in my brain for a little while. And then I sit down and kind of make sense of it, because I don't want to be too emotional about it. Because again, I'm so conscious of not being the get off my lawn guy. I don't want to come off that way, but I do want to make a point. So with a little time, that's what they say. Comedy is tragedy plus time equals comedy. And that's sort of how I view it. It's like, let me think about this for a little bit, let it settle, and then let me, without disconnecting the rage, because you still need that. But I need to be able to present this calmly to an audience. So I think time is really what does it. And sometimes I'm not ready. Sometimes, there's stuff that just it takes me months before I kind of hit on this is where I kind of want to go with this. I'm detached just enough to be able to find the humor in this.
We hear a lot about comedians working out their new material, getting in these comedy clubs late at night, working out these new jokes. How do you know through this process when something is ready? I mean, or when something isn't working? Obviously, there's the crowd reaction. That's a big tell on what's happening, but there's still maybe less work to do on it, or maybe more work to do on it. But how do you know when, this is hitting how I want it to hit?
Well, the jokes are like songs. They're done when the album comes out. So that's how you know it's done, which is why, we're talking about Gwyneth Paltrow on this album again, because I wasn't quite done. But I thought I was done, but I wasn't. But those jokes were done because they came out on my last album. Now these jokes are done, but now you got my brain working for the third. We're going to have a Gwyneth Paltrow trilogy here, I think. So, that's when they're done. But it's funny, man. You can, as you do this long enough, it's funny when you really write something that you think's going to hit, and you get on stage and you're about to launch into it, and in the first couple words as it's coming out of your mouth, in your brain, you're going, "This is going to bomb so hard. This is going to be so bad," because you could already have an instinct that it's not going to come out right. And so the quicker you know that, the quicker you can kind of move on. But if it's something that I think is really funny and I just don't quite have the right point of view or delivery on it yet, I'll stick with it for a little while. But some jokes you just go, as soon as I'm done telling this, I'm going to rip up the piece of paper, and this will never be said again. Even though
That can be painful. Do you respect and enjoy that whole process of working?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, I got enough joke. If I have a new joke and it goes nowhere, I can sandwich it in between two jokes I know work. So it's not as catastrophic as if when you're first starting out and you're like, I got to do 15 minutes, and that's all I have. I have to do every joke I have, and I can't afford one to not, make it. So listen, comics, we stand in the back of the room and watch each other, and there's nothing funnier than laughing your ass off at one of your friends when a joke bombs, because we all love each other. We all respect each other. We all know we're good comics. But if Florentine's in the back of the room and a joke just eats it, I can see him back there giggling like a maniac. And then that makes me laugh, because I'm like, yeah, I would be laughing at you if this was you. It's, there's always a crowd waiting around the corner to take you down a few pegs, man.
You also do a lot of stuff theme-wise with your albums, connect with rock and roll, hard rock, and heavy metal. How did you come about that? Was that something always part of your vision, or is it just something that you came about when you put out your first album and you just decided to run with it?
Again, I think it's, the old school packaging of the physical products, whether it be a CD or, now this will be my second album out on vinyl. But yeah, because people don't have to understand who I'm paying tribute to enjoy what's on the inside. It's just a bonus for the old school fan who does go, oh, I get it. It's, No Sleep Till Hammersmith by Motorhead, except it's No Sleep Till McSorley's and it's Don's comedy album. That stuff like that is fun to me. But if you don't get it, it's not super important. And I'm on a heavy metal label too. So, I mean, of course I should really, that's going to be a big part of it as well. Cause they've certainly been helping me out getting the word out about all my albums and, helping promote me. So, and they're, of course, they have such a great artistic staff over there. The people that do my album packaging are just like, they're masters at it.
That's always been unique to you. I mean, I saw you with, open up for the Dead Daisies. Obviously, you were on that metal show, and now that's That Rocks and stuff like that. So it's always been unique to you, which I find really cool because I think the attitude or persona that you have on stage, or who you are, I should say, connects with an audience like myself, rock and roll fans, because there's an underlying theme and an underlying tone of it, which I think is really cool and unique because I don't think there's anyone else doing that.
I don't think as a through line of their career. No, I mean, there's definitely been comics who have done parodies of some of their favorite music albums, but yeah, mine are all connected somehow through music. And, it's such a big part of my life. Obviously, it would feel weird that I didn't do that.
Are there any plans to hit the road with another band or more musicians?
Always wanting to get out on the road and do stuff with bands. Nothing to announce right now, but working on a couple of things. But in the meantime, going to do the Monsters on the Mountain, or it's called now the Mountain Music Festival, in August in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is sort of the land event for the Monsters of Rock cruise. So for people in that area, come on down, and myself and Eddie Trunk and Jim Florentine will be hosting that, and of course we'll be doing comedy down there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But I'll be through all over the U.S. this summer. So check my socials, come out and see the show, and also again pick up the vinyl if you get a chance. It's like I said, I'm happy it came out on vinyl. If I sell one copy, that's okay with me because at least I can say, hey, I put out a record. I put out a record, an actual record.
I think what's really cool though is that you're obviously your history and your love for music is well documented. Your love for comedy is obvious, right? You're a stand-up comedian. To be able to connect both worlds and to have that, I think is pretty cool and unique and special for you to grow up being a rock fan, to grow up cracking jokes, and now being able to merge both those worlds. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and also kind of my third love is sports, and there's going to be a bit of that in the thing that I'm bringing over to Pantheon too. They call it the Rock Strap, which will give you a little hint at what we're going to be doing there. But I've done, work in the sports field as well. So really it's all three of my loves I've been able to connect in a big way. So yeah, it's, listen, I'm not a household name. I know that if for the one person who's made it this far into the interview who likes me enough to sit through the whole hour, I appreciate it. I know I'm not the biggest comic. I'm not the smallest comic, but yeah, for me, I can't imagine having achieved, more than what I have. I'm just really lucky.
I think the rock and roll community recognizes you as like one of their own, right? And I think
I am, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing about you and your career is very few comedians reach the level of like, the Mount Rushmore, right? I mean, that's just reserved for a small handful of people. But, the rock community, as we talked about, is a great community. It's a big community. And everyone knows who Don Jamieson is. And I think that is a testament to you and how funny you are and the material you have and the way you're very approachable too as well when you're out at an event or wherever you're at.
Yeah, always. And yeah, thanks, Jay. And I'm like you. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't know any other way to be. It just doesn't, that metal show was just all these great worlds colliding, my friends, my love of music, having a television series for 14 seasons. I mean, if someone had come to me with, that country show, it wouldn't have been the same. I wouldn't have been able to do it. That's not, I have appreciation for that music, but that's just not where my heart lies. So yeah, I can only be me. So, what you see is what you get, I hope.
Yeah, I think that's part of the whole thing, man, is the authenticity, is the realness of it, is the ability to do something you love and pour your heart into it and, make sure that what you do is all you. It's not faked. It's not something that you're trying to do. It's part of your personality.
Yeah, and I think we all surround ourselves with people who think like us, and who are assets in your life. I wouldn't be anywhere in the comedy business without some guidance from Jim Florentine and Andrew Dice Clay, who let me open for him for about 10 years. And I'd certainly be nowhere or no one in the music business if it was not for that metal show and VH1 Classic, giving the three idiots from New Jersey a chance, on the little show that could. So, it's just, all these worlds have collided in the coolest of ways.
Can you tell us anything about the podcast, when that's going to start and when it's going to air?
Yeah, we don't have, but by the time this airs, there might already be an announcement out there. But, I think safe to say, summer of 2024, we're going to start getting some shows on the Pantheon Podcast Network from myself and Keith Roth, who's a great DJ on Sirius XM, Ozzy's Boneyard, and Hair Nation, along with a great crew of people, and of course all the people at Pantheon. So yes, this summer sometime we will be rocking.
Awesome, Don. As always, man, it's a blast every time you're on, man. I appreciate it.
Jay, can't thank you enough. And you're the instigator of this. So if it doesn't go well, I'm coming after you.
I'm not worried because I think it's going to go well. I think it's going to be awesome. So
I think so too.
Everyone, that's Don, absolutely, man. Everyone, that's Don Jamieson. Like I said, all his links for pre-orders will be in the show notes. Go click on it. Go order that stuff. I mean, come on. We got the ale albums, dark ale, light ale. I mean, that is so cool and so unique. That's going to be great. Once again, I'm Jay Scott. This has been another episode of The Hook Rocks. Take care of each other. Stay safe. And we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Ouch. This knee is killing me, but I can't stop training. The marathon is in 2 weeks.
Let's get on ZocDoc and find a doctor to take a look at that for you.
Okay.
Here's a review. Dr. Craddock really takes his time.
No, I don't have time.
What about Dr. Charles? His patients say he can help find a quick fix, and he's in network.
Great, now we're talking. Book it.
Booked. 1 mile down, 19 to go.
Bring it on.
You've got options. Download the ZocDoc app today.
I see you.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole fam.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney Plus. Rated PG-13.
The right window treatments change everything. Your sleep, your privacy, the way every room looks and feels. At Blinds.com, we've spent 30 years making it surprisingly simple to get exactly what your home needs. We've covered over 25 million windows and have 50,000 five-star reviews to prove we deliver. Whether you DIY it or want a pro to handle everything from measure to install, we have you covered. Real design professionals, free samples, zero pressure. Right now, get up to 45% off with minimum purchase, plus get a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.